In this video, I'm going to talk about databases, more specifically SQL. So let's start by defining what a database is. A database is an organized collection of structured information or data which is typically stored electronically in a computer system. So there are many databases that are available to the public, but the one I'm going to talk about in this video is SQL, which stands for Structured Query Language. So the first process is creating a database, and normally after that you would create a table. A table is basically a more specific file that contains certain things, like you can have a table for users or even orders, for example. While creating tables, you would also be asked to create some column headings. For example, under the users table, you have username, password, and email. And all the rows of data that are entered into the table are known as queries. Each of the columns in your SQL table are capable of holding different data types. In SQL, there's a lot of data types that do different things. But here's a list of a few of them. So we have the normal int, then we have these other 4 types of integers which have different upper bounds and limits. Then we have decimals and floats. But then we also have date and timestamps, which is something we don't usually have access to in C. One important point to take into consideration when creating an SQL table is to choose one column to be your primary key. Primary keys allow rows of tables to be uniquely and easily identified. For example, we have a table which holds users' data like their names, emails, and etc. But some of the people might have similar names, and that might cause some human errors in the future. That's why we set a primary key. In this case, it could be an ID, which basically has some letters and numbers to uniquely identify that user in an SQL table. SQL is a programming language, but it has a fairly limited amount of vocabulary that you can use, unlike other programming languages. So to perform any operations on a table, you could use these 4 primary operations to do so. So we have insert, select, update, and delete. There are also other operations as well, but these are the most common ones. So let's start with insert, and this one's pretty straightforward. All it does is basically add your information to a table. Now I'll give a few examples of the syntax and the way we can write these operations. So the command for inserting it to a table is insert into, then the table name following with the columns that you would like to add, and make sure all of them are comma separated. Then we have the next operation, which is select. Select can be used to search for items in a database. Imagine we have a small database with a few users inside, and we would like to find the user with the ID of 19. So we'd have to write select and then follow up with the column information that we'd like to extract. For example, the name of the person. So now we're basically selecting the whole column, but now we want to add a condition. And how you do that is by using where, which basically is a condition of selecting it. In this case, we want the person who has the ID of 19, so ID equals 19. And the outcome of this command will give you the person's name, which has the ID of 19 from the table. So the penultimate operation is update, which basically modifies existing data in a table. So let's say we have a table which contains a few users, and we would like to update the username of the person which has the ID of 10. So we need to update users and set password to the new value where the ID equals 10. So now the user with the ID of 10 would have their password updated in our table. And lastly, we move on to delete, which just removes the information from a table. So for this one, we would just use delete from, then the table name, following with the condition. Alright, thank you for watching this video about SQL databases. Hope you understood why we use SQL and some of the commands to manipulate data in databases. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe, like, and hit the bell icon to get notified every time I upload a video. Thank you for watching, and bye bye!